The second topic that you all wanted to hear about was the college interview. This can be a very intimidating thing for a lot of students, possibly yourself included. This might be the first time you're actually doing a sort of professional interview with another adult. And so it can be nerve-wracking, and I just want to say for us, this is not meant to be a scare tactic or something that should be very intimidating. It's meant to be another one of those places where we get to hear from you directly as opposed to secondhand through numbers or recommendations. And so treat this as your opportunity to get your personality across and have a face-to-face meeting with someone associated with Yale, whether that's an alumni or a current student. So we do offer two types of interviews here at Yale, and our peer institutions also offer one or both of these types of interviews. So we have on-campus interviews and we have off-campus interviews. If you do have a chance to visit our lovely campus, I would recommend looking into our on-campus interviews, which are at our admissions office with current Yale seniors who are trained to do interviews. Those are about half an hour. After this casual conversation, it's not meant to be super formal. Dress appropriately, but you don't have to come decked in a full business suit or anything like that. Once that half-hour conversation is over, the senior will write up a report and put it into your file. Off-campus interviews are similar. These are offered with alumni who live in your area, so these are for students who don't get a chance to visit our campus. And the way that works is once you've submitted your application to Yale, we'll send your contact information to Yale College alumni who live in your area, and they will reach out to you by phone or by email to set up a half-hour appointment somewhere locally in a public place like a library, a Starbucks, something along those lines. Again, it's a casual conversation. They'll speak to you for half an hour and then they'll write up a report afterwards and send it over to us so we can put that in your file. And this is really a chance for us to get to know you, to meet you, and it's also a chance for you to ask your questions, right? So the people you'll be speaking to will be very closely tied to the Yale College community because they'll either be students or have been students at Yale. So please make sure you come ready to ask thoughtful questions and find out more about this school that you're applying to. With that said, I'm going to turn it over again and see if our students here have any thoughts on the interview process.
Yeah, so when I was going through the interview process, I had an off-campus interview, but as being a local student, it was kind of weird where I came to Yale for my off-campus interview. I was just at the Starbucks across the street from the Yale Art Gallery. For my interview, I was really nervous just because I didn't have time to change. I was coming straight from school and I was freaking out. But then when I went into my interview, I noticed that the person was just casually there, ready to talk to me, had gotten me coffee already. And it was just kind of a very relaxed setting. And I think that's something to keep in mind when you're going into any of these college interviews. The person there is not trying to scare you. They're not trying to tell you that you will or will not get in. They're just trying to learn more about you. So I think once I was in that moment, I was able to talk about myself, talk about the person with them, and just understand Yale. And I think if you use that opportunity to ask your questions that you couldn't really ask an admissions officer or someone else before, and if you use it to really explain all the things that you couldn't really write down on paper because they were too stuck in your brain, then that's going to be the best interview for you. I definitely had that experience, and that really helped me out, or at least made me feel like I put everything I possibly could into that part of the application.
Yeah, I think a big thing about it is just to have fun in a lot of ways. I feel there's a lot of pressure often put on admissions in general. You always have to put your best self forward and be the best and always maintain that level. But I feel like at the end of the day, what it is it's an opportunity to talk about yourself, which you don't get that often. Just to sit there and be yo, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. But at the end of the day, it's a fun chance just to be yourself and show it off.
And ultimately, I had a lot of fun with my interviews because they were a chance to get to know an alumni of the school, because I had alumni interviews since I'm from Texas, so it's really far for me to be on campus. But my interviewer studied architecture, and she worked in space architecture. So in the end, not only was the conversation about me and what made me excited, it was also me trying to learn about her work and kind of see where her life has taken her now. So we've become friends through our interview. So it's not a thing that like, to be fair, I was kind of nervous for it beforehand, but now looking back on it, I wouldn't say it's a thing to stress out over. What I did was just I kind of practiced interviewing with my parents and my friends, where they would ask me like questions like, what makes you excited? What do you want to do? Stuff like that. So it's good practice to have with your friends and parents beforehand.
Could you guys give some examples of what are good questions to ask of your interviewer versus questions that might not be so productive?
Yeah, I think a few questions I had asked were like, how was your Yale experience? What is it like studying at Yale and participating in a bunch of other activities? Because I was really worried about the balance of things. And I just generally asked questions about like financial aid experience and just going through a lot of the bureaucratic processes, because a lot of schools may go through those differently. So I tried to get both the systematic and the social ideas through my questions.
Yeah, certainly. I asked those questions, but also I was also very interested in the specifics that each school had. So, for example, I was interested in international relations and getting involved with a lot of these like social impact groups on campus. So I asked questions about kind of like organizations on campus to see how they might appeal to my interests.
I perhaps made the mistake of not asking any questions during my interviews. Still a young child. But what I wish I had asked, like about the transition to Yale and coming from a place that like is very different from this campus, and like how you kind of balance that and like maintain your sense of home while also being in like your new home, which is going to be whatever college you go to.
So basically questions that a person could only answer in person as opposed to something you can look up online,
Yeah.
right?
For
So
sure.
those are the best kinds of questions.